Hi, it's John Chisholm from Crescente Management Centre. Welcome to this month's Learning Burst. This is Series 2, Episode 4, and we're going to take a look at management versus leadership. So, when we're thinking about management versus leadership then, I think it might be useful to think about what management is, what leadership is, and then maybe think about some of the overlaps and some of the gaps as well. So, I think management is about tasks and task-related behaviours. It's about people putting structure and processes in place. So it's about consistency and uniformity of a process. So if you think about something like the engine management system in a car, what it's trying to do is make it run as efficiently and as smoothly as possible. And I think that's the same with management in general, really. So if you're a manager, then I think your main goal and main aim is to make things run smoothly and to achieve goals and perform well and get your team to perform well, or your whole organisation maybe. For me, that's the main focus of management. So it's about completing tasks. It's about clarifying work and work roles and responsibilities, again setting kind of boundaries, and this is where we start to maybe get into an overlap with leadership, so we might come back to that a little bit. It's about monitoring and measuring stuff. Management is about monitoring and measuring, so measuring day-to-day performance. It's about making sure we've got the skills in place as well. It's about making sure that the processes and systems we have are making us work smoothly and efficiently for ourselves, for customers, for the sake of safety, and so on. I think management also, in that case though, there is creativity in management in the sense of being able to problem solve. So I think a lot of management is solving problems. If there's a system or a process that's inefficient, or we get a customer complaint or some other kind of feedback, something stops working properly, part of a system or a process, then I think it's the manager's job to fix that. It might be the team member's job or the customer to feed that back, but actually it's our role to fix it. Obviously their management has a different focus, I think, at different levels, and so on the courses that we provide, we tend to just simply divide roles up, management roles, into team leader, middle manager and senior manager. And I think the role, as it were, of manager is slightly different and varied at each of those sorts of levels. So that's a little bit about management. It's about structure, and it's structure that people impose. So what about leadership then? Let's have a look. So we're talking management versus leadership. Leadership is about relationships and relationship-related behaviour. I think therefore then it's about building trust. So a very basic definition of leadership is task through relationship, and the leadership aspect shows itself in relationships. Now, I've just mentioned when we were talking about management, team leader, middle manager and senior manager, and similar with leadership, there's a different kind of skill set and a different focus and almost like a different energy, I think, at those different levels. So the leadership, in inverted commas, that's required, the relationship behaviours from an individual that are required for a team leader might be quite different to that of a senior manager. So what might that look like? I think that in senior management roles, this is where we maybe traditionally think of leadership, and the historical view of leadership, going back a few generations, I guess, maybe more, is about leaders being born, you're born a leader. If you bring that more up to date, the last sort of, I don't know, let's say generation, 20, 30 years, then we're talking about leaders more going with the principle that leadership skills can be developed and anybody can develop their leadership skills. And obviously we subscribe to that because we support people to develop themselves to be able to lead better in different contexts. So in a senior management leadership role, it's going to be about creativity again, but in terms of the vision and the direction, and potentially kind of setting the vision and the direction. And I think that's rarely done alone, although there are people who are those individuals who are responsible or maybe in a role for that. But actually typically it's about creating a guiding team, isn't it, in terms of senior leadership. And so yourself and a few other trusted colleagues are going to set the direction for a team or a department or a service or an entire organisation. So that's the kind of leadership skills at that level. So I think at senior management level, while we're looking at management versus leadership, I think probably there is a more of a leadership and kind of strategic, as it were, like planning focus to that. And maybe you need to be a bit more inspirational too. And so there's probably more focus on leadership and slightly less focus on management. I think in senior management roles, actually, you're probably looking at headline figures rather than at a middle manager level. You're kind of looking at measurement and monitoring and so on at a much finer level of detail. So senior leaders setting direction. I think also at middle manager level for leadership, I think that's the role that's probably broadest. It has some of the kind of strategy stuff in it, and it has some of the team leader stuff in it. And so if you're a middle manager, the leadership required there, I think, is about aligning people and aligning teams and getting people energized and involved, and also understanding what they're contributing to. So that kind of bigger picture, really. So that's a kind of alignment to strategy at that sort of level. Whereas at team leader level, I think there's some really key leadership responsibilities at team leader level. And leadership at that level is about trust. It's about relationships. It's about understanding the boundaries and the expectations and the standards of work that is management. And I think this is where there's a key overlap here. For managers, put the policies and processes in place. But at a team leader level, you've got to lead people relative to those boundaries, standards and expectations of work. And that's not easy, because you've got to get people to come in on their day off, or you've got to get people to go that extra, for example. And that requires trust. And when things go wrong, key leadership behaviours at team leader, maybe at middle manager level as well, is how you respond when things go wrong. I think senior managers can do that at an organisational level, and they tend to set the tone with that. But actually, really, for me, leadership shows itself not when things are easy, but when things are difficult. You know, when the business or the team is going through difficulties, that's when you need leadership. And there's lots of kind of commonly used ideas around sort of team leading and leaders at an operational level and what that should look like. So managers rolling their sleeves up, as it were, and coming onto the shop floor to serve customers, or to unload stock, or to do whatever's needed. Not all the time, but just when it's needed, when people are off, or when there's a problem with the team, or when there's an extra need to do that. And so that's an example of leadership. So I think management and leadership are complementary, obviously. I think they're different skill sets. We support people a lot to try and understand where they are as an individual, to kind of work out, okay, so what role and what level and what's the scope of that role? How much of that is management? How much of that is leadership? And where do I need to develop? So leadership is around the relationship related behaviours, and that requires quite a lot of self-awareness and self-management. Knowing yourself well enough, and maybe knowing your team as well. And then the management skills is more kind of task orientated stuff. So whether you're setting those policies and structures, or whether you're just there to follow them and to take manage a team and lead a team through and with those constraints, if you like. I think where the gaps show themselves, I suppose, is where I think certainly at any of those kind of levels where people don't know what their job is, or where people are not, for example, very good at delegating. So a leader or a team leader or a middle manager, let's say, and they've not clarified the roles well enough. They don't know enough about their kind of responsibility or accountability, and hold on to things too much, or give too much away, for example. So the team are maybe feeling unsupported, or the work feels unstructured, or something like that. So that's where we need to think, oh, is that like a bit of management that I need to put my management hat on and think about that? Or is it about relationships and putting your kind of leadership hat on? So That's a little bit of a run through of management versus leadership. I hope that is useful with a few kind of ideas, and helps you to think about your own role a little bit as well in terms of where you are. So thanks very much for watching and listening. Thanks very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Remember to like and comment, hit the bell icon for notifications of future videos.